Hello and welcome everybody. Thank you again so much for joining me today. It gives me great pleasure to introduce you to Louise Bonner. Now, Louise, like a lot of women, have a very diverse range of experiences that have led her to leading the life that she's living right now. And this morning we're going to explore some of Louise's past in terms of what has led her to living and creating a life that serves other women to live their best lives. So Louise, welcome and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Now, we were just talking before I pressed record. You have lived a very diverse life. You've experienced a lot of different things, from motherhood through to business and everything in between. Do you care to share with us a little bit about some of the key points in your journey that have really formed the woman that you are now and led you to, making the most recent decision that you made to become a transformologist?
Sure. Gosh, where do I start? I'll try to keep this quite simple if I can. I was a medical secretary when I first started, and I worked for Creatrix and the head of adolescent medicine at the time. And I could see mothers struggling back then, but I was a young person, and I wasn't married and didn't have kids, and I was just in that space. And unfortunately, part of our work also had to do with child abuse. So there was, some stuff there that, wasn't good at all. But that was something that was very sad, and it was happening, and unfortunately it happens today. Moving forward, I did that for a fair few years, and then moving forward, I got married, and my husband had his own business, and I started to work in that business, just slowly, just taking on different things. And as it turned out, we ended up growing that business quite substantially. And I ended up, at that time, we started our family, so I was pregnant and working, and I was so grateful that I could actually work in our own business and still be a stay-home mother, but working. So I sort of had both hats on going on. Long story short, I ended up having 3 children under 4, and I was a chronic morning sickness person, so it had its challenges also. But I loved being a mum, like becoming a mum, and fortunately for me, motherhood did come quite easily for me, and especially after having a baby and feeling that horrible morning sickness when I was pregnant, to have that baby and to thrive and to be, able to look after a baby and work at the same time was just a really good thing, and I'm very grateful for those days. We built that business and did quite well out of it. But like everything, Bree, all businesses have their challenging days and things that you have to, deal with. I don't know any businesses that don't go through those stages, but generally speaking, it was great, and we did it for quite some time again. And then it got to a point where my husband, I could see he was getting a little bit burnt out and needed change. And I recognised those signs, but until he did, it wasn't going to change. And soon after, he did realise that he needed change. And I felt like for us to move forward as a good, healthy, happy family, that was necessary. So that was scary at the same time. We were leaving something that we knew so much and then going into this different space. We were still young enough and energetic enough to go into that and think, what's available to us. We had people thinking that we were crazy, and I had a lot of mums, telling me, geez, my husband's never going to change his business because I'm really comfortable in my space, and, all I could see was if that wasn't going to happen, we were going to have a good future, because you can't have a family member that's sad, or like not sad, not in their best place. So I supported that, and we did. We ended up going overseas and doing some interesting stuff. But then it veered into something back here where I was looking, because I had been in that space, my kids were growing up, even though I was a full-time mum, I was trying to find my space out of our business and where I fitted into the world of the outside world. And in fact, I was going to take on a position where, when we looked at it, it was more suitable to my husband, because being male, his experience, and also it was really up his alley. So again, I supported that, and I thought that was a brilliant idea. And we needed to be practical at that point of time. We felt that was a practical decision. And even though I was a part of that business and I studied with him and I knew the stuff, 100% he was going to take that on, which I supported. And I still do to this very day. And then I took on something practical and something that was, I don't know, it was just something that I could depend on, that weekly wage every week, you know, and grow, and that was fine, and I really enjoyed it at that time. Long story short, as it turned out, my daughter ended up taking on the other side of the business when we went overseas, and she's actually made a career out of that. So it's interesting how your children, when they're young kids, they're watching their parents, even though you're not teaching it, they're watching, hearing conversations and listening. It was amazing what she had achieved, and she wanted my support, and I supported her also, and we had some beautiful experiences, and still do today. And it's taken us to places like New York Fashion Week and you know, shows overseas, and being involved and invited to those sort of things. So yeah, it was a big array of difference. But back to my husband anyway, he ended up doing that stuff, and I supported him, I supported her. And as much as I loved being that person, it wasn't until years later I realized that I was always holding myself back, because I felt like my position was a support person. And it was myself, it was everyone in my family is very, very supportive, but it was something that built over time, that trying to find your place and trying to find where you're best at. But to be honest, I think I was keeping myself safe. Yeah. And it wasn't until recently that I realised that, and it was my family that says, gotta find your space, Mum. And I went, you know, I do this and I do that and I do this. And I went, oh my goodness me. And then when I looked back, I started the personal development journey back in 2002, I believe, around that time, because I found some journals. We were renovating a house, renovating a room, and I found some journals. And when I looked back at the date, I went, wow, I started that journey back then, but I didn't know what it was. I was sort of this thing I was on, this path I was on. Yeah. And that went through different modalities, and I still do follow different people today. But it wasn't until last year that I took on and invested in myself and spent 12 months really solidly studying a modality. And while it's good, and I believe it's where it's led me today, there was something short and something missing in it. And no matter how much I would study it, you know, the affirmations and the positive thinking and all that wasn't enough. Yeah. And it was a very, very interesting story. I suppose I'll go into how I found Creatrix. Sure. It was, yeah. So basically I studied this modality, not Creatrix, this was the one before, and I could extend on that and go further. But just something in my head was saying, this is great and it's got substance and there's a lot to learn in it, but there's just something missing. And I'd always said that. And anyway, again, long story. There's always a long story associated with me. Long story short, I decided to. I was booked to go to London with my daughter for her work in the January, and here in Australia we had the bushfires going on. We could see something coming. It was happening in China. It was happening with her colleagues, and I'm thinking, you know, this does not look good. You know, this is something big for it to affect China the way it is. This is heading our way. Anyway, undenied whether we were going to go to London at the time. Anyway, it was early. It was in January, so we were okay. We decided to go. We committed. We had invested. Blah blah blah. And off to China we went. To London we went. But prior to that, I'm talking about a week before, I was doing my normal meditation in the morning. I've got different practices that I do. And I was watching a YouTube meditation video, and lo and behold, the Creatrix one came up. Now, I had not seen an ad before for Creatrix. I haven't even seen an ad come on at that time. It was the weirdest thing. And Maz started talking about this stuff, and I'm thinking, what's this? And as she's speaking, I'm thinking, no, 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 no. I'm not going to listen to anything. I've just spent a whole heap of money on this other stuff. I'm going overseas. In fact, we were organised to buy a new business at the time. We were just in the midst of that also. And I'm thinking, but as she's speaking, she's saying all the things that I, in my head, had thought.
Mm.
And it's just like, I was sort of doing the back and going, no, 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 I'm not going to listen to this. I'm not going to listen to this. And I actually am turning it off. I turned it off. And I went, oh, I switched the station. Anyway, it got the better of me. So I thought, oh, I'll just listen to it. So I actually looked it up and I listened to this ad.
Mm.
And I'm thinking, this is too good to be true. She's saying everything that I think. That's the missing piece. That's a puzzle, you know. And I'm thinking, and I'm going, no, 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 don't go there. So I left it for a week, and it got the better of me. And I think I ended up putting in an inquiry, and I got the lovely Donna on the phone, and she literally we had the conversation, and she said, "How long are you going to do this thing without doing it yourself?" Basically. And at that time, I was just finding the missing piece for me because I think I was holding myself back, and slowly my limited beliefs were coming through. Now, prior to that, I was quite, you know, go getter, go do this, go do that. But through circumstances, I started to feel a bit of a limited belief coming through.
Mm.
And I knew until I sorted that out, I wasn't going to go anywhere fast or anywhere at all, basically, because of your limited beliefs. So back to Donna, we had a few conversations and I, you know, set her straight. Oh, I'm just inquiring, you know, I'm going overseas, so I'm not going to commit to anything, you know. I was just wondering. And she goes, yeah, there's no pressure off her, but she was so lovely and it's just like she was just so easy to talk to. Anyway, she said, I think I might have communicated with her once more, and I can't quite remember, but while I was overseas, I looked into it and I was trying to find what was wrong with it. I think, what's wrong with this thing? I'm going to get some bad reviews and I'm going to, you know, I just needed something to stop me in my tracks. I needed something. I couldn't find anything. And I was looking at the women and the transformations they were having, and it got the better of me. And I was, you know, trying to find everything or anything negative about it. I couldn't find anything. And I remember sitting at breakfast with my two daughters at the time, and I said, we were talking about, you know, different plans we had and where we were at and everything. And I said, I actually think I want to study this new thing. And they went, oh, what is it, Mum? And they were talking about it. And naturally, they always say, go for it, do it. If that's what you need to do, Mum, it's about, like, you've done things, but if you want to do something for yourself and you think this is it, you should do it. And I'm trying to find excuses why I couldn't do it. Well, the money to pay for a course again was one of my things because at the time I had other commitments also. And, you know, and in the back of my mind, I knew the virus was heading our way and I'm thinking, oh my goodness me, I don't know what this is going to bring, etc., etc. Got home, tried to put it out of my head. A few weeks later, had a discussion with my husband about it. We were actually going to a wedding at the time. I had a bit of a drive. And again, like, I'm not going to get any encouragement from my family. I'm very fortunate, and that's how we've brought up our kids, that we try to encourage. We had this motto, you don't want to die wondering, you want to give it a go.
Yep.
Some things work, some things don't work. But if you've got the drive and the ability to give it a go, give it a go, because we do have opportunities come to us. If we close and shut the door to those things, we don't know where that can lead us. And sometimes those things that don't work out push us in a different direction. It's horrible. You hate that feeling and you think, what's this all about? But it's amazing how it can push you into a different opportunity or a different path. You end up meeting other people. So, yeah. So, and even the Saturday when I spoke to Donna, I committed. And even handing over that amount of money was really hard for me because I'm thinking, what am I doing? Like, again, is this going to be the thing that I want it to be, you know? And
I love what you've shared, Louise, because your experience, although diverse in you know, your life experience, it's common in that, you know, women, we play a very good supportive role to a lot of people a lot of the time, and particularly, you know, and this is not meant to be said disrespectfully, but women of your age and your era, you get to that point where you've spent your whole life being the support person and encouraging everybody else. You know, you find personal development because, again, you know, women are the top consumers of personal development. We're always looking to empower and better ourselves in some way, shape or form. But it got to a point where the support role wasn't enough. You'd lost yourself by the sounds of it a little bit in the support role, and you as an individual standing on your own 2 feet, kind of, you were standing on a little bit of unstable ground a little bit by the sounds of it.
Yeah, it was so true.
Yeah.
The position I held in the support was very important, and business doesn't operate without that. But as that grows, things change. And it was time, you sort of need to reassess every 6 months, I think, and see where you're at. And I knew things were changing, and it was actually, my children are getting older, and I mean, they're young adults. So they also want me to find the place that makes me happy. And I want that also. And my husband wants that, because while this is aimed for women, and that's part of what I liked about this, because it did take into epigenetics, it takes into the woman's cycle. I don't feel it's covered by other modalities. It's just something that's just so important. We are so up and down with, regardless if we are quite stable or not. It does play a big important part of our behaviour. But I also believe with this, it's not just helping women, it's helping the men in our lives also. It's helping, without a doubt. If we understand ourselves and also understand the importance of how we affect others, it just makes us more confident in where we're standing, and also embrace being a woman. We can do amazing things because we've been gifted by our bodies and our minds. And if we can be in that place of feeling comfortable with that, well, that's going to be better for our men in our lives, because we are different. Men and women are different. The sooner we understand that and embrace our strengths, because both males and females have got their strengths, and I sometimes think men can get a bit lost with women, because, you know, there's just so much stuff out there about that. But back to what I'm saying is, we have our strengths, we've got our what we're better at, what we're not so good at, and the sooner we have better relationships, it's going to be better marriages, better partnerships, better relationships with sons and sons-in-laws and future generations. And I think it's just happier families,
and
happier
that's the
children.
aspect that we are talking about, isn't it? You work with one woman and everybody benefits from that. And a lot of the time we forget about the future generations that benefit from the work that we do for ourselves right now, because we do become more connected. You know, I don't have grandkids yet, but I imagine that the influence that I'm able to make on my future generations is going to be so much more impactful, because I'm not carrying around all of the emotional baggage and shit that, you know, I'd been carrying around when I was younger.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. Our work is for future generations, and also to help the women that are struggling. Motherhood doesn't come easy for some women.
Yeah.
You know, it's the thing they should do, and, you know, they feel guilty because they've been gifted with children. But it's not always easy for them. But there is a way to start to learn how, and to get the support, and to those beautiful, beautiful babies and those children, you know, their life depends on our actions and our behaviour and our reactions.
Yeah.
And if we can just help with that part, and then it makes the family strong. When the woman's not feeling so strong, the other one, the male steps in, or the partner steps in, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And we just want to be the lifeline for the mums out there that have heard, listen, you know, they're trying to do affirmations, they're trying to do positive thinking, they're trying to do all that sort of stuff, but it's just not enough. And there's something further they can do, but it's a partnership. Whoever we take on, it needs to be partnership. It's not us doing it. It's not them doing it on their own. It's a full-on partnership, and that's all covered anyway in our training. You know, we just can't take anybody. They have to be right and ready. And with that takes commitment. So, yeah.
So you had this moment of divine intervention where you had previously committed to a personal development program, which I'm assuming would have been a probably a reputable modality,
Oh,
possibly
lots,
very well known around the world.
and lots of them.
So you committed to this personal development training. You were doing it. There was this niggling in the back of your mind of there's something not quite, like it's good and it's great and there's substance, but there's something missing from it. Divine intervention happened and you found Creatrix.
That
So
was
can
divine
you share with
intervention.
us, how has your, firstly, let's talk about how your life has changed because you were able to break those sabotaging, limiting beliefs that were playing out in your life. How has your life benefited because of the training that you did as a Creatrix transformologist?
I believe that I think we're all work in progress because life goes on and there's things that come up. But the fact that we can feel secure in what we believe works, not only we can teach it or we can facilitate it and bring it to other women. I like the fact that we don't just train and that's it. And forget it, buddy, you're on your own now. I like the fact that it's ongoing. We are encouraged and also um, told to get rid of your own crap. Work on that. Whatever's bothering you. And if it's something is bothering us, we've got a place to go. We've got other women like us that we can go to and get the help. And we too, in turn, give them the help. That is a sacred space. And what I like about this, and I hope that doesn't change, is, and I don't believe it will change because I think Maz is onto it, is she will only have people in her community, in her workspace. One, she's got to protect this, so it's got to be in the hands of the right people. But also, she's not going to tolerate any nonsense.
Yeah.
So if there's someone in this that hasn't got their the best intention for one themselves, but also for the community and for other people, I don't think, I think that is one of the important things and one of the positive things I like. It's because I can, put in a code to get some help as other women do. And we are constantly looking after ourselves so we don't get burnt out.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. It's such a unique framework, but it is so necessary because, you see people talk, and women in particular, we don't compete, let's lift one another up, but they're in environments that are so competitive that,
Yes.
they highlight the insecurities of one another and not always done intentionally, but it's not done in a conducive way that truly does focus on support and growth for self so that the support and growth for others is able to happen. I know Maz talks about it's win-win-win. Everything that we do as a transformologist, it has to be a win for us personally. It has to be a win for the people that we're working with. And ideally, we want it to be a win for the wider community and, potentially planet. When we focus on win-win-win, then everybody is going to benefit. And that's what creates this movement of growth and change for women.
Exactly. And that's probably been the draw card. It's ticked all my boxes.
Yeah.
It's looking after me in the respect of I need to be my best person, my best self, to be able to be looking after my clientele people who come to me. It's keeping me, I've got to check in. I've got to make sure that I'm in a good space. And if not, do something about it. There's no reason why you wouldn't. The support's there. Things are going to come up. I'm fairly new at this. So, I'm going to have experiences that come up that I'm going to need help with. And at the end of the day, it is in Maz's best interest to make sure that we are all being supported because it is her baby. She needs to look after it, and it's going to evolve and change as time goes on because that's growth of anything, of any business. So, so that's where I'm at with it.
And I think it's exciting because we all, and all transformologists share this. because Creatrix is such a unique framework that truly does offer guaranteed outcomes, it's something that we all protect, because we
Yes.
know that it is the way of the future for women who want that high level personal development transformation.
Most definitely. It is a big thing to guarantee something. So you need to make sure all your ducks are lined up and make sure that whoever you take on is 100% committed and will do the work. And it's going to get uncomfortable for her, even though we don't keep her in her uncomfortableness. We just need to be there for a short period of time,
Yeah.
and then we need to get her out of there.
Yeah.
But she's got to be prepared to look at it for what it is.
Absolutely.
Mm.
So what's your experience been like? So you trained earlier this year,
Yes.
earlier in 2020. How has your experience with this particular business been? Because you've shared with us, you've got a lot of experience in business, and in transformology, it is a business where we're looking for women who choose to keep her as that person outside of self as the focus, to build a business that enables us to help her. So how has building a business, and we said off before we press record, you're fairly new to social media as well. So it's not like you had this existing following that you were able to plug into.
No.
How has growing your transformology business been for you over the first few months of your business?
Well, I was in the first group with COVID that we ended up doing the training online. So at the time, I ummed and ahed whether that was going to be good for me, because I personally think going away and locking yourself somewhere else out of your environment and just being focused on one thing is the way to go.
Mm.
But by saying that, I didn't want to hold myself back another month or two. I made the decision, I paid my money, let's get cracking.
Yeah.
And so I intentionally said to my family, again, support, was I'm going to lock myself in a room. Everyone's going to be quiet, and I'm just going to be in that space. I'm not even going to prepare dinners and they're all self-sufficient enough to prepare a meal for the whole family. Like, I really decided that I was going to have a retreat, do this 100% of the time.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I literally set up a space where I don't usually have a space. It was the quietest part of the house. And for those days, that's what I did. And I don't know if you remember, Brie. Do you remember? At the time, I was a mess.
There were a couple of moments. There was a couple of little moments, Owen.
Now, when I say that, fully committed, fully prepared, fully organised as I do, but I did go with it. I knew that I was in my uncomfortable space because I was doing something new. And I had this thing that obviously, if you're comfortable all the time, you get bored doing it, but that's safe, or you move out. And no matter what anybody does or what they do in life, it's going to be uncomfortable. You just don't know stuff and get experience just like that. You've got to go through the process. So I thought, okay, this is what I'm doing. And I don't know, well, it is actually part of the course and it makes you think. And you are challenged by it because being 100% committed means that it's uncomfortable.
Yep.
And while some women will go into it easier, no problem, and that's just the way they are and where they are in life, I was being challenged by this and whether it fitted into my value system.
Mm.
And also, I was hormonal at the time. It's the worst week for me to be hormonal, and that's what I was happening. So I was a bit teary, but I pushed through. I pushed through and I got clear on what was hassling me, and I got Creatrix on that, and I got through those days.
How did you find the online experience? Because, that is something that a lot of women who are considering training as transformologists, we used to run courses online. Obviously, the world has changed a lot in the last few months and it's not something that's available to us now. So how did you find the online training, knowing that you were still, we did stretch comfort zones, but our commitment to you, and I hope that this is what you felt, was still there 100%, regardless of whether you were at a computer screen or whether you were face to face with us. What was your experience like of the training?
Look, you guys were 100% committed, without doubt. We felt that's from the moment we started. That was never an issue. I think, again, I can't help that business head. I was thinking, my God, that would be so hard for you guys to be sort of pushed into this space, even though that's probably something you eventually move into. It's sort of, you might have been pushed into a bit faster than you thought. Um, yeah. So you handled it really well. No, but the commitment was there. We still felt your care, which was very, very important. I also now know from what I've done since those days, I've followed through all the rest of the training that we're doing, we continue to do. And I think it's just something that will just get better and better as you understand what needs to be done. But from your side of things, the online was fantastic. One, we didn't have to travel, even though I would have been fine to do that. Two, for those that are looking at the expense of that, it was less of an expense, obviously. I'm a people person, though I'm not. I'm a private person. I am still a sort of a people person. I read people quite like I can feel, and I'm a comforter. So I think in a room of women, it would have been good to have that conversation and that knowing of the other women. But by the same token, we got stuck into our stuff. We got stuck into the training. We were doing Creatrix. I mean, we had one of the women that was overseas at the time. We were working with her, and we were pushed into my uncomfortable zone. Doing things that. But then it was there. You either did it or you didn't do it. So it was like, now you've got to do it, because if you don't, you've lost the opportunity.
What was one of the biggest limitations that you released throughout that week of training?
I think the biggest thing that I got out of that is believing in myself. Believing in myself. And it seems really ironic, because honestly, the things I've been associated with and the people I've been associated with, but I've always been in a group or I've been with someone doing it. But to believe in myself to do something by myself is amazing. And I felt like after those 4 days, I'd made the decision, I'd made the commitment, I was moving forward on it. Even though after that, I felt amazing, but also felt exhausted, because you're just using as much as you're just trying to find the inner stuff. The logical mind was challenging you all the time. So I found it again. With this, for me, it's step by step. Okay, I've done this part. I've done the next part. Now I've got to do the next part. So yeah.
And how has that newfound self-belief influenced your most recent couple of months?
Oh, Brie, it's just amazing, because I have now helped someone that needed the help, and to be able to get her on the other side of that is absolutely a gift.
So talk to me about that. Talk to me about, because this is the thing that, a lot of women who choose to have a business in personal development do it because they want to help another woman. And part of the challenge of that is, am I going to be able to actually deliver the outcome that I'm promising her? So
yes.
What was that like for you to actually work with a real woman experiencing real issues? She's lived a real life. This is not, there's nothing staged about it. This is a real woman. What was it like being able to guarantee her an outcome and deliver that?
I think if your heart, your first and foremost thing is to help someone else, you're in it for the wrong reason. You need to want to be there first and foremost. And that's the driving factor. For me, later on, I want to be involved in things. I think it's very healthy to be still a part of different, keeping your mind active. But in my lovely future, I want to be abundant and prosperous, but I also want to give authentic contribution through my own experiences. When I say that, have been in that person's place, or maybe not, or similar, or to be able to relate, it's relatable, but to be able to contribute something in my future, that's the reason I'm doing this. But also I had to start, I'm thinking, that's my future. oh my goodness me, I better start getting that experience now. And that was part of my decision to do this. I think I got to get going. So I can only get better and better. So back to that though, to be able to bring someone, one, to be trusted with the most inner thoughts in a confidential, safe place is just such a lovely thing to be a part of. But then to get to be a part of the experience and to be able to get her to the other side, I just, I just feel amazing. And to be able to, oh, I'll tear up thinking about it because it's just going to make such a difference to that person and her family that, and then, you know, their families. Oh, it's just a wonderful, wonderful feeling. It's payment in itself to be able to do that and give that help to someone. Mm.
Yeah, it's pretty special, isn't it?
Oh, it's amazing. That's enough to, I think, drive anybody forward too that is a little bit hesitant. And also, in their own ability. Like you're trained to be able to do this. That was another thing, thinking, how am I going to be able to do that and have the confidence to be able to do that? But with the training, but also as we get more experienced and experienced, it'll just get better and better, I think. But to be, again, just baby steps, doing the next step, just moving forward, has allowed me, look, if I I plan to be, you know, bigger and better and whatever. But in that experience in itself was the most beautiful, beautiful experience. To have someone looking at you and to thank you for what you have done for them is, oh, it's just lovely. Really good.
Yeah. So
Mm.
if there was another woman just like you, someone who's experienced a lot of life,
Mm.
who has realized or come to the realization that she's been a fantastic support person for all of her loved ones, but
Mm.
now it's time for her to follow her dreams and to leave a legacy that impacts other people, what would you say to her?
Just do it. You know, it sounds all, oh yeah, it's okay for you, you know, da, 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 da. I had my challenges to do it too. I had to overcome myself first. And I'm the encourager. I'll encourage you and I want to see everybody do well. And I love, love, love seeing people do well, no matter who you are, what you're doing. Because while I believe there's plenty for everybody, I had my limited beliefs. And I will continue working with my stuff. But back to the person that's trying to make that decision, if you don't change, there's no change. You don't make a decision and know what you really, really want. If that is what you want, that is what you need to make the decision about and to step forward with action.
Yeah.
If you don't make that change, nothing changes. You'll just stay where you are.
And if you were, you know, just like you, because there's a lot of women, you know, there's a lot of courses. Let's be
Oh,
real. This is not the only course on the face of the planet. There are thousands of courses that a woman could choose to do. And you were one. You'd made the choice to do one program and then you made the choice to do this program. So what has been the most noticeable difference that you have noticed between, you know, the past program that you'd experienced and the program that you're now participating in?
I don't believe there's a missing factor. The missing factor was always with other things. There was just that missing thing. Like, what about that? Um, And I hate to say this, there's times where you sign up for these things and then you sort of you learn your stuff and you kind of left your own. We need to do our own thing in this once we're done, but we're forever being trained, we're forever being updated, we're forever learning, and that's the thing. You're always fresh.
Yeah.
You need to put in the time, and you also but if you want to do something well, you need to be equipped with the resources and the information and the go-to places.
Mm.
And also, as we discussed before, you know, this needs to be a supported system because it needs to be in the hands of those that are going to look and treat it well. So with other things, it was like you learn your stuff and then, you know, off you go and you just sort of left going, okay, while you can use it for other things, no, there was just something different about this one. Again, if you write a list down of what you're concerned about and see if this ticks the box, and you'll find it ticked my boxes. So it was something I felt confident. And I went with my gut too. There was just something in my gut that was saying, while I was trying to find an excuse, I was trying to find what's wrong with it. You know, I don't know, I can't do that. And everyone was supporting me, and there was no one. And I don't even know, like, my gut was telling me I had to do this thing. If it wasn't to teach it, I needed it for myself first and foremost. And then when I could see the potential in this to be able to help others is the driving force. And the education, I love the education with it. This is my go-to place when I've got spare time. You know, I'll read a book or listen to someone. You'll be amazed how many times you're in my ear, Brie, or Helen, or Maz, in the car. You've been on many, many journeys in the car with me, just training, listening. And it is amazing. You can hear things, you know, a couple of times, and there's times where that information needs to come to you at that particular time. And you think, have I heard that? Or where was my mind, you know? And you hear something and go, oh, that's interesting, you know? And yeah, so does that answer your question? I'm not sure if it does. I sort of go a bit off track sometimes.
No, thank you so much, Louise. I think, you know, I love, you've lived a full life, you know, and this is the thing as well. A lot of women, you don't need to come from something overly traumatic to choose to live an even better life. You've lived a good full life with a lot of different experiences. And, you know, when the opportunity arose, you took it. And I love, you know, that you're a walking example of taking the opportunities as they present themselves. And as a result of that, you're now able to gift that to other women. And ultimately, that's what we're all about. So thank you so much for your time today, darling. It has been a real pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you, Bree, for having me. And I loved having our time. We could talk for hours and hours, and there's just so much about this. And again, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it too. Thank you.
You're very welcome, darling. Thanks heaps, girls.